Also happening at this hour, aid is starting to flow into Gaza from the U.S. military's new floating pier. The first few trucks carrying crucial aid to Gaza drove across the pier earlier today. This large piece of metal connected to the beach in Gaza is critical. U.S. military officials believe it could see up to 150 truckloads a day of aid, but groups that are delivering this aid say it is not nearly enough. NewsNation's Robert Sherman joining us live from Tel Aviv with the latest and some of the challenges in getting essentials to the people who most need it.
And now, Marni, you have aid arriving into the enclave by land, by air, and by sea with this pier up and running. Finally, it's gotten to this point after it was first announced in the State of the Union by President Biden. And it has the ability to have that aid driven directly off of those boats and then onto the pier there, in which after a couple of hours, it's able to get direct access into the enclave. So they're hoping that this will be another corridor which could make a difference, with the goal being to, quote unquote, flood the enclave with aid, according to U.S. officials. But you made a very good distinction here, Marni, is that the U.S. is saying that this is not the end-all, be-all. It can only be a supplement to the land crossings and to the airdrops that have been taking place. It cannot be a replacement for that. And that is also the stance of some of the aid groups who are working on the inside of Gaza. Take a listen to this.
Getting aid to people in need into and across Gaza cannot and should not depend on a floating dock far from where needs are most acute. Land routes are the most viable, effective, and efficient aid delivery method, which is why we need all crossing points to be opened.
And some of those crossings are open, such as the Western Erez crossing in the north, the Kerem Shalom crossing, which connects Israel and Gaza, but Rafah, a major artery which connects Egypt and Gaza, that is still closed at this point, which is why you still have these calls from the U.S. and some other countries in order to get all of these access points open here. The Israelis pointing the finger at the Egyptians over that Rafah crossing, saying that that's the reason that the crossing is not open at this juncture. The Egyptians pointing the finger back at the Israelis here. The point being is that when you listen to those aid groups in the U.S., they want to see all possible avenues open as quickly as possible. Marni.
Robert, hearings have also begun this week in The Hague, South Africa, bringing new genocide allegations against Israel to the International Court of Justice. What more are we learning about this?
Yeah, I mean, the first time that we saw this kicking off in January, I mean, we were here in Israel, in which seemingly the whole country was watching these allegations and these proceedings taking place in the Netherlands. And now South Africa back in court again, bringing new allegations of genocide here. It's important to remember the last go around that we had this, the court ruled that while they didn't see it was plausible that Israel was committing genocide, they also said that Israel needs to take every action to not commit genocide against the Palestinians. And the Palestinians have a right to not have a genocide committed against them. Now you see these new allegations being brought here where South Africa says the Rafah operation and what's been going on in the last couple of months in their mind constitutes war crimes here by the Israelis. Their ally, the United States, has been pushing Israel to not go into Rafah. They've made their stance clear that they do not believe what they've seen so far has been a genocide. And it's also worth noting here, Marni, is that this will take years in the International Court of Justice in order to get a final ruling on all of this. And there isn't really an enforcement arm that The Hague has to work with, but their rulings are, quote unquote, legally binding. So still a very long way to go throughout this whole process.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.